Good morning. Denise Dryden here. I'm back on Whitefish Lake. It's been really smoky here all summer, and gosh, I can't even see the ski hill or even the end of the lake out there. However, it's such a surreal place, and it holds water in such a nice way that I thought it would be the perfect place to talk to you about these new energy kids. And for those of you who know me, you've watched me pick this up, you've watched me talk about it. You know, I've sort of moved away from the therapeutic, psychiatric, psychology-based trainings and gone towards this. And some people are like, oh, what is she doing? She's a little out there, right? And of course. However, I'm a collector of information. I am a historian. I have been reading historical documents, you know, since I was 10, 11 years old. And when I start to see something, you know, there's a part of me that's like, did I really see that? Or is what I'm learning now is to talk about what is it that I'm seeing? And so what I want to do is sort of take you on a journey through the New Earth kids, or New Energy kids. They used to be called the New Earth. I'm going to call them the New Energy kids. And talk about how this pertains to you, because it's really directly related to what you're experiencing on a day-to-day, hour-by-hour basis. Okay? So first and foremost, what we're talking about is the indigo, the crystal, the rainbow, and the diamond energies. And what I want to do is take you through this journey over the last 44 years and talk about what really is going on, okay? So I want to start with the mid-1950s, 1954, 55, 56, 57. During that time, there were contracts on Earth that were broken. Like there was this protective bubble around the Earth, like, you know, like let it be exactly the way it's supposed to be. And what happened is some nefarious energies got in there and they broke those contracts with some of the residents of Earth. And it's like, bam, all of a sudden that meant all bets are off. It's time to start sort of figuring out what we're going to do to recalibrate or heal the Earth. So what happened was that between 1957 and 1977, so for 20 years, it was like, how do we increase the frequency? How do we increase the light energy on this Earth, which will sort of, you know, it's sort of like you start putting a chill in the air and the leaves fall off the tree, right? It's a cause and effect. You increase the energy, those that can't hold that energy will naturally leave. So it's a way of recalibrating the Earth. I know this is a little out there, but just stick with me, right? So what they did was they brought in a lot of well-seasoned, wise ones between 1957 and 1977, put them in positions. You know, when I say they came in, they were born to traditional families. They had this sort of energy about them. They're teachers, they're guides. So I put myself in that category. I'm an early indigo. I am an educator, a teacher. I'm a multi-dimensional being, which means that when somebody says something, I'm looking at it from what they're saying, but I'm also looking at it from this perspective and that perspective and that perspective and that perspective. And sometimes the teachers are like, can you just answer the question? And I'm like, from which perspective do you want me to answer the question? Which didn't go over really well in high school. Did better in college with that, right? So what was clear was that we needed to put some leaders, some assistants, some teachers, some guides, some parents onto this Earth that would help, right? Because in 1977, the indigo energy came here en masse. It means that they basically sort of opened the floodgates, and all of the births all over strategically the planet were these indigo energies. And indigos are the ones who hold for truth and justice. So what we saw deeply embedded in the Generation X is this, like, you know, don't tell me, don't lie to me, don't tell me, don't play games with me. And so and I brought this really fabulous, oh, I can't find it. Where's the descriptor? Oh yeah, it's a Tanzanite aura quartz. And what I like about it is, to me, it represents that sort of blue indigo sapphire energy. So these are blue rays. These are sapphire energy beings. They're defiant. They are well-seasoned, well-trained warriors. And so what we saw as they kind of came up through the education system was that a teacher would tell you to do something because it was what the teacher wanted, and the kid's like, no, I'm not doing that. And sort of, you know, over and over again, whether it was in the family system, whether it was in the education system, whether it was in the work system, whether it's in the relationships, it's like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. And so this like truth indigo energy just sort of took over. And then what I want to do is I'm going to build like a gardening example for you. So imagine that the indigos are the ones who come in the early spring. They're the ones who have the rototiller, or they do all the weeding, or the ones who just sort of clear cut this section that's going to be the garden, right? They're like, get all this fluff, get all this weird stuff out of the way, right? Because they're the first wave. Their job is to build the environment, to get it clean and to get it strong. And so the indigos are here. Now, some of them were successful, really successful, and a lot of them sort of struggled with addiction, with disease, with anger, with exhaustion, which makes sense, right? This is a really hard sword to carry when you have to carry the truth with people who lie and don't want to be discovered. Yet they succeeded in preparing the earth because their sole purpose was to be there for the crystals to arrive, okay? So what I have here is a Russian Lemurian quartz. It's crystal clear, it's high vibration. It'll just bring the vibration in your body up to the highest point that it can, right? So in 1988-89, so in that period of time, what we saw was the second wave. These crystalline children started to arrive. And any of you who are parents of kids who went to school in, who were in kindergarten in 95, right? Yeah. What we're talking about is the holders and the nurturers. They are the holders. They are different. They're highly intelligent. They're sensitives. They're introverted. They're loyal. And what they do is they sort of hold the ground. But I like to think of them as like being the double agents, because from the outside they look like, well, they can't read. We have all these programs we have to start. Is this Asperger's? No, they started that definition. Is this autism? What is it? They're just not calibrating. They're not reaching us the way we need to. Yet, because of their presence, all of the education systems, all of the family systems and therapeutic care, all of the work environments now, are starting to, and the financial systems are all starting to change because these beautiful crystalline energies came in and held. So imagine that they're sort of the ones who plant the seeds. They're the ones who have the garden, and then they put the seeds down, and then they just kind of go like, don't know how many weeks it's going to be till this blossoms, but it's going to come up, right? So they're the holders, and they need to be honored because they have taken so many hits over the period of time. And any of you who can, who were born 88, 89, who raised or are a crystalline child. Now, these aren't exact dates. This is when they came in mass. They came before, they came in after, they've kind of come around, but this is when it like the whole earth was inundated, right? So if you are a crystal, then know that your job has been phenomenal, and you've succeeded, and you've done really well. Now, what I want to talk about next is the third wave. And once we got the ground planted and we were waiting for it to grow, and it started to sort of grow up, and little seedlings were coming, the trees were coming, the grass, whatever it is we planted, right? These rainbows came. Now, the rainbows only came for 2002 to 2007 in mass. It was a 5-year sort of influx of some really powerful neutralizers. I like to think of them as the mixers, the blenders, the pollinators. They were non-divisive. They didn't believe in duality. They were like the bees. There was kind of like property line, fences, parameters, grades. What are you talking about? And so they're happy, and they just go from place to place blending. They cannot be forced to do something that they don't want to do, because they will leave. They will simply suicide out, get a disease, and they will leave because they're like, this is just too hard. I tried really hard within this family system, or I tried within this area that I was placed, and there's just so much resistance. So what I did was I brought the Labradorite, which, and when you get it in the sun, will reflect all sorts of different colors, and it's from another planet, right? It's just not really normal to Earth. And I wish you could see in the sun the way that it takes off with its colors. So with this Labradorite stone, it sort of represents sort of how we soften, how we open up, how we encourage, and how we guide. And I know a lot of rainbows, as most of the families that I've been coaching over the last few years, because right now, you know, they're 15 and 19, so they're in that therapeutic care where the parents are going like, I don't know what to do with him. If I say his grades matter, he's like, why? And they're really, really good at video games. They're really good at reaching across time and space. They make friends with different ages, different genders. They don't believe in any identification, so they're just blowing the duality apart. And if you know a rainbow, you know that their biggest pain is when somebody like their parents or their teachers, you know, kind of judge them and don't get them and try to keep imposing these old expectations and conditionings that belong to us from another time. Now, these first, second, and third waves were all here to prepare for the diamond energy. Now, the diamond energy is this high level frequency, and it's such a high frequency that it took 40 years to build before we could hold it on Earth. Well, actually 30, because they started to arrive in 2010. And in 2010, we saw the first arrivals. Now, I have this phenomenal inherited diamond. And as you can see, it is magnificent. It's multifaceted. It sparkles. This is a huge diamond that I was told to keep on my body at all times. So I keep it right here on my right hand for everything, right? So these diamonds, they're powerful neutralizers. They're also really intelligent. So they take all of the skill sets that have come before them. They're warriors. They are holders of vibration. They are blenders. And they hold this unconditional love. So they are clean, vibrant, clear. They don't imprint on easily. Conditioning hurts them. They're here to build our new world. They're here to hold that high frequency. And now that they're here, they're doing a kick-ass job of holding all of this. And we're kind of like, whoa, what is happening day by day, hour by hour? As these frequencies start to hone in and increase, we're noticing it within us. So that's the historical perspective. So what we want to talk about is what's that like for you? Because either you were born into this period of time, you were like, I'm an early indigo, I'm a scout. I am here to support indigos and to support, and I birthed crystals, you know. So, you know, there's all of these tie-ins, right? So when each of these energies arrive into the system, we recalibrate to meet it. So it isn't like it's compartmentalized. It's more like a blending. So when the blue truth, sapphire energy of the indigos came, we all started to sort of look for truths in a different way. We started to react to those. Then we started to hold this vibration, which is, I actually know how the vibration affects my body. And then the third thing was like, I'm starting to recognize that there are things that I am accepting and changing, and I'm refining that. And now I'm in a place where I have new sensations coming online. I have empathic skills that are going. I have all sorts of skill sets that are starting to show up. So we go from truth and justice to being grounded and embodied and present. Present's the really key word for the crystalline. Acceptance, you know, that's sort of both and. You know, it can be this and it can be this, and we're changing perspectives and we're changing ideas, which is the rainbow. And we are awakening these new skill sets, these new sovereign concepts that are powerful, and we're holding them. So that's the first thing, is that, you know, when we go through some tips about what to do with this when it happens, is that realize that you individually and us as a collective have been shifting and changing with these frequencies, with these energies as they're going along. So number one would be to understand that they're sequential, that they build truth, groundedness, presence, acceptance, and awakening. Number two, that over the last 44 years, we personally have been energetically up-leveling. We globally have been energetically up-leveling. So it means that If you are in refusal, if you're in denial, if you think this is stupid, if you don't believe, it's just a bunch of, horse hooey, right? There are things there are resistances, there are refusals that are going to cause some blockages in your body. And it'll be really interesting because it's almost like you can try not to swim down the river, but when the current gets going faster, it takes more energy to resist it than it does to go with it. So what number 2 is that you can get curious, you can lean in, you can watch videos like this, you can get onto my website and find out what else is she talking about, what are some other videos she's done, what are some presentations she's done. Because what we're doing is we're unclogging the blockages, we're opening up into peaceful balance, and we're looking around to see what is possible, right? Absolutely what is possible. Number 3, personalize your journey. Whether it's truth or presence or accepting or expansion, where are you on it? Are you still like hacking away at the truth in the news, in the details all the time and forgetting to stay present? That's where your tools and skills need to be built. Are you present, but you can't seem to accept the really differences in the blending? That's where your tools need to be built. When you are present, when you get that the truths have been manipulated, when you get that there's presence and groundedness that holds you, when you get that that's acceptance, whoever comes at you in whatever form is okay, then it is, whoa, what happens when another surge on our planet comes through the Schumann resonance, through the solar system, through a lot of different things? What do we do when we're upgrading faster because we're now more open, right? So realize that this is your personal journey. Number 4, which is sort of what I talked about, I blended them, but number 4 is, what tools do you actually use when you recognize where you are? What tools help? And then what skills can you use with that tool? It's like breath. Breath can be a tool, but what skills? Can you slow it down? Can you expand your rib cage? Can you use it in meditation? And so the tools that you learn, it's about how confident are you and how do you actually use them. I teach tools and skills, and there was a point of time in the middle of this week where I had this really sore shoulder, and I kept going like, I have such a sore shoulder, I don't know why that's working, what I can do about it. And then finally I was like, wait a minute, the tools to use. So I used my yes and no tools, figured out what it was, and it was like, it just released. So know what tools you need to use and use them. And number 5, become the diamond energy. Become expanded, become unconditional love, become radiant, become wise, become empathically strong. Let all your senses come on board, because that's where we're going. That is the energy that we're going from here. From this point forward, now in 2021 forward, is this expanded diamond energy. So if you want more information about this, you can go to my website, denisdryden.com. I have presentations, I have 300 videos at different times of how to stabilize and whatnot. And I'm also in the process of writing all this into a 4-series book. So the book is sort of like the last 50 years of awakening, something like that. And then each of these energies in a much more in-depth process explained. So I'll stay tuned on that one too. Meanwhile, it's Sunday. Have a great rest of the day and a good week next week. And I will see you next Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.